Welcome to the Dynasty Football Show. I'm your host, Drew. Here on the Dynasty Football Show, we're here to create an interactive and helpful show for our listeners to rate teams, trades, and have overall rankings. So please send all of those types of things to our X account at the Dynasty FBS. You can also comment teams and trades, and please like and subscribe on this video. Thanks. Okay, so what we normally do is we'll do buys, sells, and holds. We'll talk about trades initially, but this is going to be a show solely focused on a topic that I think is something that'll be more and more popular. It happened to our league just 2 years ago, and we could find no content on it, so I think it'd be a good thing to have out there for anybody interested. That will be Dynasty League expansion, as in expanding your league to more teams. So we did this, and we did this successfully. So I'd kind of like to walk through with you guys what that looked like for us. I think it was pretty efficient and worked pretty well. And both managers are 2 years in, and they are happy. So it would be a good scenario for people that have friends that want to get into Dynasty. I'm sure you've been in a scenario where you have a friend who's heard about Dynasty Fantasy Football and they're interested in joining, but they can't really start a league. They can't gain enough people. So they're kind of screwed out of luck there. But there is a solution for them to join your league, especially if you guys are in like an 8 to 10 man league, and you have someone interested in Dynasty. It is possible for them to join that league, and I'll kind of tell you how. So we expanded ours from 10 members to 12 members. And I think it went well using this method. So the first thing you have to do before you even get going is, before the first thing really, make sure your league is using Sleeper. This is not an endorsement or anything, obviously. Not anywhere big enough to make any kind of endorsement, but Sleeper is just by far the best app, and I know our commish used it a lot for the commish powers, and it just made it a lot easier getting information quickly, and just the ease of use. So if you guys aren't using Sleeper for your Dynasty Leagues, you need to make the switch. But first and foremost, what every commissioner needs to do is just make sure everyone, or at least the vast majority of the league members, are on board with expansion. So it is kind of unfair for a member knowing that they had joined a league, especially if the league is newer. I mean, at any point, really, a team could be on a kind of a tanking train, and you bring up expansion with them, and that might not sit well with them. It might interrupt their plans for that. So make sure mostly everyone, if not everyone, ideally is on board for the expansion. So it would kind of be unfair to them if they lost some of those players, but kind of let them know that expanding could expand the playoffs as well. So if they are halfway competitive, I think that was kind of a big selling point for us when we did it, was that our playoffs was only the top 4 seeds in the 10-man league, but going to 12, it became the top 6, the top half. So the next thing you need to do is then make sure that the expansion managers, so the people that you're bringing in, make sure that they are ready to embrace the difficult road ahead. So what I mean by that is they shouldn't expect to come into a Dynasty League and dominate. That wouldn't be fair to the people in it at all. So they need to have realistic expectations and know that they won't have the advantage starting off, but it takes someone that's kind of bright-eyed about football and fantasy football and wants the challenge. So it can work out. So we did ours with a standard Dynasty team. So obviously no kickers, no defense, but we were not super flex at this time. So the typical single quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receivers, tight end, 2 flexes, and then you can add a super flex if you are super flex. So the way we did it, from starting to bench, we had 21 roster spots. And then among those 21 players, each dynasty manager could protect 8 players. I would say Superflex, you could do protect 9, and at least one person one player, that you're giving up must be a quarterback to kind of give some kind of quarterback play to the new teams. But so I would say, like, I believe there's 9 starters with quarterback, running back, wide receiver, wide receiver. So there's 6, tight end, flex. So that's 9. So that's why we kept 8 players. So basically you're giving up 1 starter that way, and then the rest of your bench, which, I mean, you should be able to afford to lose a couple players on your bench, but you won't lose anyone that is going to be a substantial blow to you. So it's kind of a nice sell to the managers. So once everyone in the league has given you all of their protected players, so there are 8 protected players, the Dynasty Commissioner, and hopefully they have some help, because I helped our commissioner do this when we were expanding. This was kind of all new to us, and this is how we felt was the best way to do it, and it really did make sense. So the commissioner and I, which was Nathan, we used a spreadsheet. We used Google Sheets just so we could share it. It wasn't anything extensive. Like, I know Excel is better for a lot of different things, but we used Sheets just because it was easily shareable, and we weren't doing anything crazy with mathematics or anything. But on the spreadsheet, we laid out all of the protected players, their position, their average points per game for the past season. Sleeper will have that in a tab. You can just click the player and find it and put it on there. It's quite easy. Their age, and then who their dynasty manager was that they were originally on. And I can put an image up here to kind of make that a little easier to follow along with. And then when you're in there, just kind of make that kind of like your big board of available draft prospects for your expansion managers. It's good to organize it from Z to A, or descending order, and points per game. So the highest points per game up top and go down, and then do the same thing for position, Z to A. So to have quarterbacks, I believe, or to have wide receivers at the top, I believe. Then it'll have each position group descending, and then once the wide receivers run out, it'll flip to the next descending position and go down, and kind of give them a big board. Especially, it's good for someone that's not very well versed in football or fantasy football, which one of our guys was. It gave him a good idea of the prospects that were out there. So it's a good idea. It's a good way to like clump the players by position and have the leading scorers at the top. But so right now, if you're thinking that, the best team in the league is gonna get most of their players poached, and then some of the worst teams in the league might not get any poached. So the way you have to do it is each Dynasty League member can only lose 2 of their players, and then no more can be taken from that team. So I just thinking about it simply, say the team that won the championship, I believe this is how it went in our expansion draft. The first 2 picks of it were from the same team. They're from the top player's team. So then after that, he's done. He can't lose any more players that he had unprotected. So he gets to keep and retain the rest of those players. So that is a little caveat. You have to let the managers know that they're not going to lose their whole lion's share of their team. Just a few players, but that they will retain the majority of their team. So after let's see here. So each expansion team will get first dibs on the waiver wire as well. So after the expansion draft happens, you make it. We had 10 teams, so we made the expansion draft 10 rounds, and then by the end of it, Only 2 players had gotten taken from each team. I can throw an image up there to show you what ours kind of look like. And at the end of the 10 rounds of the expansion draft, there were 2 rounds of waiver wire additions. So they each got to pick 2 players off the waiver wire before everyone else in the league could, to kind of give them a leg up. Like, those players aren't world beaters, or else they'd be on our team. So it was something just to help fill their rosters out. And so at the end of our mock draft and the waiver wire, they were up to 12 players, so enough to have a starting lineup and then a few on your bench. And then while you're doing the expansion draft, it is incredibly important for someone to be in there. We were all on a call when we were doing it. The 2 expansion teams, myself and Nathan, the commissioner, and other league members were there just observing, but I and Nathan were keeping track of the big board. So you kind of have to during the draft organize all of the players by their respective league owners, and then make sure you're crossing out when 2 players from one team go out. Then you have to just get rid of all those from the pool, and so on and so forth. So there's no confusion. You don't get halfway through and realize 3 have been taken from one team, and then it would create a whole spiral of wanting to redo the entire draft. So it is important to keep track of that. So after that, like I said, they will have 12 players, and then once the rookie draft starts, which you guys must do this before your rookie draft. Once the rookie draft starts, you need to award all the expansion teams with a pick in each round, but they will be after the league winner. So, for example, in our 10-team league, the person that won obviously is picking 10th, but the expansion teams will pick right after that. Whoever picked first in the mock draft, I keep saying mock draft, whoever picked first in the expansion draft will pick last each round, and the person that picked second in the expansion draft will pick right before them, so right after the league champion. After all 3 rounds, assuming you keep all your picks, that'll give them to 15 players, and this is just something that is fair to them. They should definitely get a rookie pick, but obviously not at the cost of going ahead of us. That wouldn't make any sense at all. So yeah, it's just something to help fill out their roster. Hopefully, if they can get hits on them, they can be a little more competitive. But the rest of the roster, say in this league was 21, they would have 15. They could fill the rest through trades or waiver wires just to fill their roster out for the rest of the season. So we're 2 years out from our expansion draft now. So I can kind of give you our thoughts on it, how those 2 teams are doing. So one of the guys that joined is in plenty of fantasy leagues. I'm not sure how many dynasty leagues he was in, but he was really wanting to join our dynasty league, so we allowed it. And then we kind of thought it'd be a little bit difficult to get one person, so I found a friend of mine who was new to football. Didn't watch much of it, but wanted to get into fantasy. He was really good at fantasy basketball, actually. He was more into the NBA. So he got into fantasy football in our Dynasty League. So he was someone that kind of needed the spreadsheets, needed the assistance, and some kind of advice on how to carry his team and what his goals look like and how realistic his outcomes were. So I'll start with him first. He came to me early on after he drafted. Well, before he drafted in the expansion draft, he said that he would like to try to compete. I thought with the players in the pool, he'd be able to scratch the surface of being competitive, where he'd have to have a few games break his way, and he could maybe sneak into that 6th spot. And I told him that, and I said, you're going to have to be aggressive. Once that new season starts, he had a 1st-round pick, so he immediately traded it, and he was trying to just do anything to be able to get competitive and get that playoff spot, because I told him, I was the 4 seed the year I won. I snuck in, shouldn't have snuck in on a tiebreaker, and I won. I was definitely not deserving, but I won. And I tell mostly everyone, you just have to make it to the playoffs. Anything can break your way, but it's not guaranteed. You're at a big disadvantage. But nonetheless, so he would come to me throughout the year and ask me about trades. Like, do you think this is smart? Am I giving up too much? And I would never tell him like, oh, don't do that. Do this. Don't do that. But um, I had kind of helped him to get his team to where it was, and it was a lot of halfway competitive guys in the top 15, top 20 in their position that would have good weeks, and guys that would maybe have upside if they could get a little bit of their injury history straightened out. But 2 years later, his team is starting to unravel. Like this past year, his quarterbacks were Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, and Sam Howell. And while that was okay last year, they played and they gave him points. That quarterback was not a strong suit, but now, I mean, Sam Howell's out of a job. He's back up for Geno, and then Daniel Jones. I believe they're rolling with Danny Dimes one more year, but we'll have to see what they do in the draft. They're paying him too much money, but nonetheless, he's unraveling just a bit. Unless he can pull off something in the draft, he's been able to gather a few picks, but I don't think he has a first. So it's really tough. He's gonna have to either embrace the rebuild this year when he's not good enough, and then restart. Just like the person that I'm about to talk about, our second expansion league member, he embraced the tank right from the beginning. People that he got from the expansion draft, he immediately sold back to their original owners and gathered picks for the upcoming rookie draft. He took a lot of swings, some misses, some hits in the rookie draft, and didn't really compete the first year. Just had his young guys out there playing, and he knew he was playing for the long game. And he's a stingy dynasty manager. He doesn't make trades unless he knows he's, quote, winning it. He's pretty smart about it. He doesn't pull the trigger on things that he doesn't remotely like at all. So he's been able to get one of the more exciting teams in our leagues, I would say. He's got a bunch of young guys, and he's closing in on that playoff berth. I think he definitely will get it this year. He's got young guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, Drake London, Brock Purdy, James Cook, Smith and Jigba, and he's got 2 to 3 first round picks this year. So if he hits on those and or trades to get solidified players and points, he will make noise, and he'll be kind of enjoying his run with this young team for a few years, while as their other manager. He had a few chances at the playoffs, but to no avail. So just really didn't get him anywhere. Didn't get him any of the league winnings. So yeah. So there's 2 approaches. There's it's really a hands-on approach. If you guys want to do an expansion draft, you have to do a lot of it yourself. There's no features in Sleeper or any of the other apps that will allow you to do an expansion draft. You have to create the spreadsheets. I think in the way that I laid out for you guys, it's easy enough. I mean, you have to be a couple of dedicated workers to input every single player. So I mean, when you just work on like one team a night, like one manager's team a night, put in the 13 or 14 players, 12, however many it is, just put them into the spreadsheet, call it a night. Maybe knock out 1 or 2 managers the next night, call it a night. You don't have it's not a race. I mean, we have the whole off season. If it is a race and you're doing this at the end of the off season, then I would find time to grind the entire thing out, and then so they can have as much time as possible. But if you lay it out in the way that I explained it, lay out your own draft board and then conduct your own draft, kind kind of moderating the draft and having the commissioner manually remove a player from a team and then add them to the expansion team. That's the way to do it. So if there are any more questions, please feel free to comment. I can make another video clarifying it. Maybe we could walk through how we did it. So let me know if there's any questions. As always, say anything to the at the Dynasty FBS on X, and then leave a comment. That'll also work. We'll read all of those. Please like this video and then subscribe. Thanks, everyone.